Hi everyone, I'm Yuren. This is my Pluriliteracy Autobiography. Hope you could enjoy listening to it. Literacy is considered to be a solely contested term. It is more than the ability to read and write, but are more likely to influenced by social, cultural, political, and economic factors. From my understanding, literacy is the ability and the willingness to engage with language to acquire, construct, and communicate meaning in all aspects of daily life. This actually means the language learning is not an individual process. We are not likely to solely sit in the classroom, memorizing vocabulary or grammar to learn language well. But actually, I think there are some of the limitations of the definition of literacy, because for literacy, it's actually a dynamic process. So different people have different needs of being literate. From this perspective, it's a little bit too rigid to simply giving a definition to saying what is literacy. When we are helping students literacy learning, we need to make sure we provide learners with enough interaction and exposure to a target language. Here, the interaction doesn't just mean interact with people, but it also means interact with different aspects of life. For example, even interact with your past or maybe your future. And as educators, we also need to make sure we motivate students. Try not to bother them with redundant work, like redundant reading or writing at the beginning of their study. This will probably make them lose interest. For my own experience of literacy learning, before the school age as a young child, I imitate my names from my parents in the form of writing. And I interpreting those characters I met on the street with my parents. When I turned to the school age, I started to learn writing characters with teachers. And in class, I interact and comprehend with the classmates about different articles. And I started to sharing those writing pieces with my friends. And then when I got older, and probably now and in the future actually, I have stronger focus on literacy, especially different resources. Instead of focusing solely on textbooks, I have many forms of text in print, digital forms, using words, visual, and graphics. And I consulting meanings from various kinds of texts on my own. Literacy cannot be simply defined as being able to read and write in two languages, but actually it means being able to speak, read, write, or comprehend in two linguistic systems. And this relates culture and linguistic connections with people's own living experiences. And people are also expected to interact between those two language systems. From my own experience of being bilingual, it is a sequential way. I actually developed literacy in Chinese 3 years before English, and even my high school English teacher also suggests us not to learn English so early because he believed learning too early has side effects on both English and Chinese. But now, through learning, I changed my mind. As teacher, we could use English and Chinese literacy instructions while teaching, and we could develop two languages together. There's no need to delay teaching of literacy in English, and we need to convey this idea to parents. Here's an example of how I use my whole linguistic repertoire while reading, especially comprehending those complex articles and while writing outlines. From educators' perspective, we shouldn't separate linguistic systems of bilinguals. We need to encourage them to use their whole linguistic repertoire while learning. Here's a picture on the left. There is how I make preparation for this assignment. I use both Chinese and English to make an outline to help me understand. And also, it's believed that bilingual learners learning outcome could be maximized while they are using their whole linguistic repertoire. Here's a strategy we could provide for the students, is we could let them know they could use those pinyin while they are writing for English. And maybe they could return back later on to say whether they will find a word in English to express that. But normally, actually, examiners are normally Chinese, so they will be able to understand what you are meaning if you are using pinyin in your writing. Plural literacy highlights the ability to produce and understand information in a variety of linguistic and non-linguistic codes. It actually emphasizes social and cultural contexts are integral to doing literacy, and communications are in different modes and channels. What brings out by plural literacies is semiotic repertoire. It is considered to be the whole semiotic resources that people use when they communicate. It is a response to the limitations of the concept of linguistic repertoire. So, do teachers need to teach students all those things in class? No. Class time is quite limited. For teachers, we need to value and recognize plurilingual language and literacy practice of students as a whole. Trying to familiarize students with different languages or even dialects. Avoid those one language policy in class. This is considered to be a good way to settle the drawbacks bring by only valuing the dominant national language in society. From my own learning experience, it actually changed a little bit. Before university, we are actually having those one language policy. Only Mandarin and standard English is allowed in school, and dialects is actually forbidden at school. But actually, when I go to the university, I find the school policy actually changed because students are from diverse regions in China. We started to share those differences, and we actually find it really interesting. For example, for the cauliflower in Chinese, and for me it is huacai, but for students from north part of China, they say this caihua. The order of the characters shift, so it's really interesting thing. And the professors in my home university, they encourage us to read some poems in different dialects in class. And I learned all those different gestures and emojis without teachers teaching. I just know how to use it immediately I see them. Here are the references. Thank you for your watching.